fires threatening homes and flaring up on the side of freeways.
Every part of our state is under attack.
A new statewide emergency as drought fuels the flames.
If we get an ember on this dry land, it's going up quick.
New this hour, a growing risk on our side of the mountains.
The west side of Washington is not immune to a large-scale wildfire.
Why fire authorities expect more fires like this.
It could have been worse.
It could have been.
Police share new details about why they say Richard Sherman was arrested.
This arrest, from our perspective, is being treated no differently because of the high-profile nature of the involvement.
Shots fired at cars.
I saw the muzzle flash the second time, and that's when I knew I had to get out of there.
Amid growing concerns about freeway dangers.
Breaking news tonight, detectives have executed a search warrant at a home they think was the origin of this massive fire near Wenatchee. 1,500 homes are at risk and nearly 10,000 acres have burned. And it's not the biggest fire in the state. I'm Joyce Taylor. Thanks for joining us.
I'm Greg Copeland. There is a new state of emergency in Chelan County and a drought emergency declared all across the state tonight. These are the big fires that are threatening homes tonight. That one that we just showed you near Wenatchee, and an even bigger one that destroyed homes near Nez Pelham. There's also a complex fire that has burned 50,000 acres in southeast Washington near Clarkston. State leaders are already worried resources will be spread too thin.
We are now projecting that every single week we are going to see increasing catastrophic wildfires on our landscape. We have currently right now 5 significant ones that have just broken out over the last 7 days.
We have team coverage for you tonight on the new concerns about brush fires along our highways. We want to begin with Eric Wilkinson in Wenatchee, where that fire is threatening hundreds of homes tonight. Eric.
That's right, more than that actually, and we have just learned within the past 30 minutes or so that fire investigators did execute a search warrant at the location where this fire is believed to have begun. That's all we know right now, but we will certainly keep you posted as we learn more. This fire now more than 9,000 acres and more than 1,000 homes in danger. Wendy Bowman nervously watches the hillsides as they blacken and fire creeps toward people's homes.
Right away when we saw the fires, we started packing up stuff because, if we get an ember on this dry land, it's going up quick.
The Red Apple fire broke out around 7 last night and spread quickly, fueled by winds and dust-dry brush. Within just a few hours, it was already threatening Wendy's neighbors just a few hundred yards away.
Oh, we were just watching from our back windows, and we would see the flames come all around these houses and thought for sure that they were gone. So the firefighters have done an amazing job saving those houses.
About 200 firefighters from 4 counties and the state DNR are attacking the flames by air and on foot. Level 3 evacuation orders, meaning leave now, are underway. Nearly 1,100 homes are threatened right now, as well as orchards and even a PUD substation. The state DOT shut down parts of Highway 97 just north of Wenatchee so fire crews could better attack the wildfire.
Plan of attack is to start with engine crews. We now have air assets doing significant amounts of water drops on the fire in an effort to increase that containment number.
A Red Cross shelter is set up at the Seventh-day Adventist Church. 8 people were here last night, more expected tonight. What is expected to be another restless night in Wenatchee and the surrounding hills as the fire continues to burn.
We're just waiting it out. Maybe get some sleep today because we've been up all night. Keeping an eye on that right there. So, yeah. And praying for our neighbors.
Back live, you can see there are some very large homes up in these hills with some very scorched earth all around them. So far, there have been no reports of any homes that have been destroyed by these fires. But again, the fire is only about 10% contained at this point. But we want to get back to our breaking news is that fire investigators here have executed a search warrant at the location where this fire is believed to have begun last night, right around this time. We will have more for you as we find it out. For now, live in Wenatchee, Eric Wilkinson, King 5 News.
Eric, thank you. At least a dozen wildfires flared up today on the side of South Sound freeways. Authorities doused the flames along I-5 and Highway 101 in Thurston and Mason counties. The fires are out. The concern is they may have been set on purpose. King 5's Michael Crow is working on that story for King 5 News at 7 tonight.
All right, let's turn to meteorologist Craig Herrera in the Weather Center. And we know firefighters tonight are praying for rain in the forecast, but it really doesn't favor them at this point.
Yeah, Greg. And even though we've got a chance for some showers, light showers on Friday on the western side of the Cascades, like you said, it just doesn't look good at all for them. So I want to show you the rain future cast, and I want to jump ahead to Friday because that is the best chance to see any type of moisture. The green is what you're looking at. It makes it up into the Cascades, but doesn't go beyond that. The storm itself is well to the north. It takes the little bit of rain that we might get, a shower or two, out of here Friday evening, so it doesn't look good at all. As far as the forecast, the fire weather warnings continue through Thursday at 11 p.m. with heat advisory still in place. Look at the winds, by the way. They're gusting up to 25, 35 miles per hour from the south-southwest. Relative humidity way down to 7 to 19%. Temperatures tomorrow right about 100 degrees or so. As far as the U.S. Drought Monitor map, it comes out every Thursday. The latest one from last week shows the western half of the state abnormally dry, eastern side anywhere from extreme drought to exceptional drought. You compare that to the same week 1 year ago, which is sitting on the right side of your screen. Greg, you can see just how big the change is year to year. We'll have more on that rain in just a bit.
Okay. Craig, thank you. The biggest fire in the entire country is in southwest Oregon right now. It's called the Bootleg Fire. It's burned 210,000 acres, and that one is just 5% contained. Fire officials say at least 21 homes have burned. Another 2,000 buildings are still threatened.
As the governor announced the emergency drought declaration today, he laid the blame on climate change.
When you smell smoke this summer, it's climate change. When you see our highways buckling because the road simply expands and buckles because of heat, it's climate change. When there's not enough berries because of reduction in production of quantity, it's climate change.
Drought declaration opens up permit and funding resources to help. Fire officials say conditions are about a month ahead of schedule. The entire West Coast faces drought conditions, which could strain fire resources across the country.
Newly released 911 recordings are giving us some insight into what happened in the moments leading up to the arrest of former Seahawk Richard Sherman. His wife told dispatchers Sherman was threatening to hurt himself. Sherman is accused of trying to break into his in-laws' Redmond home. King 5 Sebastian Robertson is live there now. And Sebastian, we know there's more to this story than just that alleged break-in.
Well, important to note that Sherman hasn't been charged with anything. He's in the King County Jail, will likely see a judge tomorrow. Meanwhile, WSP and Redmond police piecing together a story that starts with a car crash on 520 and ends with Sherman in handcuffs. He's a Super Bowl winner, once part of the Seahawks secondary known as the Legion of Boom. But tonight, 33-year-old Richard Sherman is in the King County Jail.
This arrest, from our perspective, and I think safe to say from Redmond's perspective, is being treated no differently because of the high-profile nature of the involvement. The process will play out as it does for everybody else.
Redmond police first alerted that Sherman was upset and on his way to his in-laws before midnight. At 1:49 Wednesday morning, a 911 call from Sherman's in-laws' home in Redmond. Someone telling the operator that Richard Sherman was trying to break in. 4 officers responded, and 10 minutes later, Sherman was in cuffs.
Mr. Sherman physically resisted officers' efforts to take him into custody, and a Redmond police canine was deployed to assist in gaining control of Mr. Sherman.
Washington State Patrol also investigating. They say that before Sherman's arrest, a 911 call came in from a construction site along 520 near 148. A worker reporting that someone had driven through their site, wrecked their SUV, and taken off. That vehicle registered to Sherman. Tonight, the free agent remains behind bars, and soon a judge will determine what charges the veteran NFL player will face. WSP did obtain a warrant to withdraw blood at the hospital. Sherman suffered minor injuries. They're going to test that blood for possible intoxicants. When asked if those results would be expedited, WSP making a point to say Sherman is going to be treated just like any other inmate. In Redmond, Sebastian Robertson, King 5 News.
Well, here in Washington, we've reached a critical goal in the pandemic. 70% of people 16 and older have received at least one COVID shot. And now there's renewed effort to push that even higher. King 5's Lionel Donovan joining us live in Pierce County, which still has one of the lowest vaccination rates in the state. Is that right?
That is, and that's why health authorities here in Pierce County are hoping that a change in tactics might help move the needle. Washington is officially 70% vaccinated. But although the state as a whole has crossed the governor's finish line, there are still some counties that need to catch up. Pierce County, for example, is still working to get their vaccination numbers up. As of today, just over half of the population is partially vaccinated. And although there have been some spikes, Pierce County's numbers have shown a gradual decline for administered doses. Community organizers here say allowing folks to speak to each other directly may be what's needed to create a bottoms-up approach to the problem, because mass vaccine sites may not be the answer anymore.
What we have seen is that that has been only able to penetrate our community to a particular extent. So it just follows in the organizational reasoning to say we now have to come up with different approaches.
Which means health authorities are trying new ways to reach people where they are.
Over the last couple of months, we've really made that switch from mass vac sites to really getting to where our communities are at. And we have a strong focus trying to get out to farmers markets. We're trying to get to different community celebrations.
The hope is that working alongside trusted voices in the community will help move the needle for the county's vaccination rates. And organizers say they're up for the challenge.
The numbers that we have, which are lagging behind other parts of Washington state, especially along the I-5 corridor, are not as a result of not trying. We have dissected this and we know where the resistance is. And now we're going to try to engage people where that resistance is and give them a reason to take the vaccination.
Now, the health department also wants to let residents here in Pierce County know that if they want to get vaccinated, to head to their website for more information along where they can go to get a shot. For now, we're live in Tacoma. Lionel Donovan, King 5 News.
Well, first it was debris. Shots are fired. Now shots are fired at cars on the freeway. We talked to a victim and state troopers about the threat.
Also, a long-awaited decision revealed about traffic around the West Seattle Bridge, but it's not for drivers.
First, a new series from Glenn Farley on wildfires.
Our fire season is starting.
Western Washington's rising risk of wildfire.
Yes, it can happen here, and it does happen here.
The training, the strategy, and the lessons learned. Next on King 5 News.
New this hour, an in-depth look at the fire conditions in our forests. More than 900 fires have already ignited this season, and the west side faces a growing threat. Last year, one brush fire swept through a neighborhood near Sumner, burning several homes there. It was last Labor Day weekend, the traditional close of summer, when Washington state saw a concerning rash of fires. The Sumner Great Fire caught everyone's attention because of where it burned. Tonight, King 5's Glenn Farley looks at our wildfire vulnerabilities and why they're growing.
The green shoots of spring can't hide the burned trees and downed timber from an important wildfire near the end of last summer.
I think it's an eye-opener. It's Sumner Grade showed us something that I think a lot of us maybe didn't think would happen. It opened our eyes, woke us up to that the west side of Washington is not immune to a large-scale wildfire.
But it sounds like it could have been worse.
It could have been. I think we easily could have if we had not had everything come together at the right time.
John Parkinson recently took over as the new fire chief for East Pierce Fire and Rescue. But he was on duty on that windy Labor Day weekend in 2020. The Sumner Grade Fire is named for the steep, long climb along Highway 410 heading toward the Cascade Mountains.
That weekend for the state as a whole was horrible.
Yes.
And then it came here.
Yep, and I think one of the most helpless feelings that I recall listening to the radio was our on-scene incident commander, after he had already requested a second alarm, which was early in the fire, within just a few minutes asking our dispatch center, if I ask for a third alarm, am I going to get any resources? And the quick answer back was there are no additional resources. So no additional resources in the county or neighboring counties. So basically, you're on your own until further notice.
The fire was sparking, it jumped the highway and was sparking in the neighborhood, south of the neighborhood, at the bottom of the neighborhood.
King 5 spoke with residents Tamara and Kyle Casera after the worst had passed.
Apparently at one point they were deciding whether they should just let the neighborhood go.
Because it was so bad, and they stayed, and they stayed for strangers and pride of their community, and the heroism is insane.
It was that close.
The person who was running this division, I still recall him pointing to a house down the road here and this house saying, these houses are undefensible, we're going to lose them. And within minutes, they started burning. We didn't have the resources. He pointed to a number of other houses and said, in these houses, we're not going to be able to protect also. Again, it was almost like a scene out of a movie with just at just the right minute, a new engine would show up just as fire was creeping towards a house. Just as fire was creeping towards another house, a helicopter would fly over and you'd see them dump a bucket of water on top of a house. We had a ladder truck in one of the cul-de-sacs basically working like a yard sprinkler, spinning in circles, defending houses.
In the end, only 2 houses were lost. He says many others had fire damage. They got lucky. The Sumner grade fire has become a benchmark for the fire potential here on the west side of the state. One of the fire departments that helped out on Sumner grade was Ording Valley. And in May, on a high-altitude logging site still subject to snowfall, Ording Valley provided training for fire districts and fire departments in Pierce, King, and other counties.
Are you seeing more fires in your area of service than you did, say, 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
Absolutely. Yeah, in my 19 years in the fire service, I've seen a tremendous growth in wildfire and interface type fire.
Jake Wegley helped put together this training program. It's not a straight line, but the trend is clear. In the decade since 2010, the number of fire starts and the number of acres burned in Washington has gone up. 2015 stands out as the worst, well over 1 million acres, as that year stands as a record drought. 2020, the second most acres lost. The 813,000 acres, more than 13 times the area burned in 2010. And in 2 of the last 3 years, the Department of Natural Resources says 40% of the fire starts have occurred on the west side of the state.
So the training we're getting today will end up with our red card, our wildland training. We're going to be learning how to dig line, clean up hot spots, and maybe put some water on the fire as well.
Trevor Painter is one of those firefighters now adding wildland skills.
Our fire season is starting.
Charlie Burns retired after fighting fire for DNR for 47 years. Now he's helping Ording Valley deal with a growing reality.
Can it happen here? Yes, it can happen here, and it does happen here.
And this is part of the problem. Western Washington has a bit of an image problem because it is so gorgeous, it is so lush, it is so green. But here's the issue. Even where we are in Edmonds, in a forested park, what is down here on the ground is already very, very dry. Back to you guys.
Which is a huge concern, as you said. So, Glenn, you talked a lot about resources. What's the bigger picture that our state has to deal with this season?
Well, the bigger picture is we can't just look at Washington in isolation. When you talk to the Commissioner of Public Lands, Hillary Franz, and others, they will point out that because we have fires in other parts of the country, especially California, Oregon, often it's Arizona, as it already been this season, a lot of the resources we need are already committed to these other places. And as we move along through this project this week, you'll hear how more money is being raised by the state and through the state legislature to try and put Washington in a better position to fight its own fires.
Glenn, thank you.